Hello, and welcome to Trust Your Glitter podcast. This is Kristy, and I am here with the astrology of the week ahead for June the 24th through June the 29th. We are in our final week of June of 2024. This year is flying by. It's beyond fast time this year. I do think it's because of I don't know, maybe it's all the astrology, maybe it's the eclipses, maybe it's just the Uranian astrology we had this year, maybe it's Jupiter entering Gemini, who knows, but I definitely think this is a very powerful year for a lot of people, and it is definitely a deep growth cycle. So I feel like, we've lived a lot of years in this year, and we've lived a lot, and I think there's a lot of maturity that's going on, at least in my friend, groups and things like that. So I just want to say, if you feel like a totally different person right now, it's because you are, and it's because we are continuing to lean in. So I want to talk about that. The podcast this week is going to be split up. I'm continuing to work on how I'm doing my social media. I've gone through a whole rebranding process through the last few years. I'd say since 2020. And so if you're listening to this, just know that right now this is on everything. This part of the podcast is on YouTube and on Substack and Patreon, but the full episodes are going to actually be uploaded directly Substack and Patreon, and I'll put clips on everywhere else. And so know that this is like an abridged podcast if you're listening on YouTube or other platforms where I'm posting this, but the real and the deep is going to be on my Substack, Kristy with a K, Belich, and my Patreon, which is Kristy with a K, Belich, Belich, because I'm going to do a little bit more personal content and just kind of expand. I think that there's a lot of astrology content up now, and if you want to go date by date, year by year, and all these things, every creator has their own thing that they're doing. But right now I'm being called to talk about the planet Saturn, and because we're going to experience Saturn retrograde this week, I want to discuss that. So I do have a podcast where I go date by date, aspect by aspect in the past, but what goes into my podcast is a lot of self-reflection on astrology. Astrology is a tool that I really lean into when it comes to personal research and connection to spirit and connection to myself. So I do a more intuitive approach towards astrology, and before I used to be ashamed of that, and now I'm just kind of leaning into the fact that this is every astrologer has their own way of doing things, and I'm not a textbook astrologer. I do go by the dates, I do go by the aspects, but I also am very aware that there's so many different types of astrology out there. There's so many, psychiatrists, psychologists, so many things, and I recently got a reading, and according to, the 4 different goals that my spirit guides gave me, I have to reapproach how I'm doing astrology and comedy for myself. So if you see me online bombing, I'm going to be online bombing, and I've already bombed yesterday, posting things, posting content, trying to just reconnect to my voice, because the real is, I didn't think I deserved a place anywhere, right? I'm a person who is in therapy for suicidal ideation, and a lot of uncovering what that is learning I have a shit ton of a religious trauma and, family generational curse breaking. And when you are the family generational curse breaker, there's a lot of shame associated with literally just existing. So for me, it's been do I deserve to have a voice? Do I deserve to stand on a stage with famous people as a comedian? Do I deserve to be seen? And this previous full moon in Capricorn was conjunct my ascendant. And I knew I had to get it together when it came to business, because Capricorn is about business, and I am far more I'm realizing now, and every day that goes by, I'm far more Saturn Capricorn than I am an Aries Sun. And so my life literally this is my life purpose. Being a business owner, being a woman in pursuit of my dream is literally my life path. And I don't know, for many people, like Saturn Capricorn people, self-sabotage is all part of the process. And after I spoke to this psychic, intuitive, who said, your spirit guides are saying that the root, and I didn't even say anything to her, but the root of my self-sabotage is related to trauma. And so, I've been revisiting the roots of my trauma. And for many who experience trauma, it definitely has to do with where you come from, who you were raised by. And I've had a lot of guilt and shame over that, because I'm very loyal to the people that, to my family, I'm really loyal. And I'm also really loyal to the process. So this whole process for me has been an uncovering. And so as I lean into this from an astrological perspective, all I can do is share my story. And where I feel most safe to share the story is a place like Patreon and Substack. And, also the shame and guilt for not really having a big audience in a career field where that's what's viewed as successful. So all I can do is lean into what the psychic told me, and the fact that this is going to be what I'll be doing, talking about trauma, talking about Saturn karma, father karma, Saturn wound. Like, this is legit what my entire astrology chart is for, is to talk about, being a Capricorn ascendant, being a Saturn conjunct moon, and basically, having Pluto in my 10th house. I am a Saturn karma wound healer. That is literally my purpose, is to talk about life purpose and finding one's life purpose. And it's tough, because I hate when tarot card readers and intuitives and astrologers get the rapport, or the when people say, like, oh, well, you're an astrologer, you should have seen this coming, or oh, you're a psychic, you should have seen this coming. People's gifts are often not allowed to be seen for themselves, because we're all humans living a human experience. We're not perfect beings. So a lot of us are here with, all of us are here with certain karma and certain timing, and there's a timing to the wheel of karma turning. And for Saturn people, a Saturn return is not always where that wheel of karma is going to bring you the gifts of, like, finding your purpose. So, like, Saturn people, it's going to take us a lot longer. If you have a prominent 10th house, if you have a prominent Capricorn series in your chart, if you have a lot of Saturn placements, it might take longer than other people for you to come into your path, because you might have come in with a lot of family karma to heal, especially if you're religious trauma based, which I am. I think a lot of people are coming in from these perspectives of, if you're a woman or somebody who is not, like, I know that I'm going to say it, like, if you're not a cis white man, this planet is, this current iteration of energy of capitalism karma is not really for us. It's for the crown. It's for the King of England. We're still living under that karma. Legit. Colonization karma. So, like, to not acknowledge that shit, like, I don't know. Like, this is all part of what I'm healing and what everybody's healing. Reparations for people that were enslaved. Like, all of this is Saturn karma. So, the fact that I'm in the US recording this on a phone probably made out of cobalt mines from Africa, batteries, karma, like things. I think it's case in point is this whole space thing going on at the International Space Station. Like, what's going on there? Why is there a space thing stuck on space at the International Space Station? To me, it's you can only get so far before karma really says, hey, we've got to get our vibes right. We got to get our frequencies reoriented. And all of us are here for this purpose. On Earth, we're here on Earth. We're having an earthling experience. We are earthlings. We are people of planet Earth. So I don't know. We were all here to really get it together. And so that being said, as we go into this week, knowing the 28th of June, we have a last quarter moon in Aries, and call back to the April 8th total solar eclipse. There's a lot of callbacks to that eclipse. It's not on the degree, as my stomach growls. It's not on the degree, but last quarter moons are the left side of the moon being illuminated. And I was thinking about this today, and I was well, what is the symbolism of the left side illumination, the left side being the creative side? And it's further release, further letting go of burdens and pains. And in Aries, we're going to see this 8-degree Aries energy next year, because we're also going to have some eclipse energies and a Mercury retrograde on this degree. And I say this because I'm meant to talk about this degree right now. We're also going to have the exact next day, on the 29th of June, we're going to have Saturn go retrograde. So Saturn going retrograde is a really important transit for us. And I'll get into that on the full podcast. So if you're on YouTube right now, just know that Saturn retrograde is a really important karmic cycle where we're going to be revisiting and realigning with so many things regarding self-authority and authority figures in our life. And so I'm going to be heading on over to Patreon, KristyBelich, and Substack, KristyBelich. If you want to know more, you can find me over there. And thank you so much for listening.